What's up? It's your boy Carceno here. I want to say thank you to everybody who subscribed and been keeping up with everything as we continue on moving on. And so a lot of people that are just, you know, they're doing well. And a lot of people are not. And we're gonna get into this because I don't know why. It's just like every couple years, some old stuff come up, and people start talking about it, and they was like, "Sino, man, you need to tell us what happened with the James Prince, Suge Knight, and Irv Gotti. They was all finna come together and start a distribution label, and the powers that be broke it up. What happened? Well, as many things, you got to go back and rewind the clock. During that time, hip hop was in a state where it was crossing over into the multi billions of dollars. Since the demise of Tupac and Big, the people who were benefiting the most was artists like Jay-Z, Nas, Dr. Dre, Eminem had just came into prominence. Nelly was blowing up, Ja Rule. And right now, this is new money, new territory for all of them. They're being offered all of these new contracts and deals that are coming across the table. It's never before was offered to hip hop artists in the game at all. Now, when this meeting was set, um, Def Jam wasn't even really supposed to even be there. Like, let me tell you exactly what really happened. Okay, Russell Simmons is not really with Def Jam anymore. And once the Polygram deal was done, and it was the Def Jam Music Group, Russ was just the face. Like they would say, "Oh, Russ is Def Jam," so we gotta promote it like Russell Simmons is still running the company, but he doesn't make any decisions anymore. Leor Cohen is in charge of everything, and Leor was the guy that would, say this is what's gonna be. Him and Kevin Liles, they were running everything at the time. So Russ was just the face. So Russ was positioning himself to do something else because Def Jam would have been shut down if it wasn't for the Polygram deal. Now, there was a dynamic shift that started to happen a little bit shortly after that time. It was getting ready to, you know, crack into a new market. And at that time, hip hop was that new market that was the baby boomers. This is a John Doe business. So it started from the ground up by us. So we should have owned it from the outset. But we got caught when the majors, we so influenced by the majors. Like, man, we got to get signed to a major. The majors was never designed to let you go off and start independently distributing your own music. That's not their thing. They are the distribution because mostly they're paying for your mastering, which costs a lot. And normally it was only a couple of few places in the United States that would even handle the mastering. A lot of people don't know that. There's a place in Indiana that does it. And most of it was done, like you say, Interscope. Theirs is done in Germany. A lot of it is done overseas. And that's where a lot of the bootlegs process is actually done. And you say, well, who would bootleg that, right? It'd be the own company. And you'll say, why would they bootleg their own thing? Because they're gonna make the profit both ways. They're gonna watch the record sales and they're gonna get the money off the bootleg. And then after they get the money on the bootleg and people go out and buy the new album anyway, and then the artists, they control their record sales. Now they don't hit those certain benchmarks and quotas because the album's been completely bootlegged, and it's cost them a couple of million of sales they probably would have had. Now the record companies say, well, we can't go by what is happening in the streets. We don't know what those numbers are. We can't track that, but we could track these. And now they could get you. You can be the hottest artist in the world, but now your album don't dictate those sales. So now we can only pay you this. So it's a dirty game. They've been playing it and been very good at winning it. Now, what's the next note in the equation? Oh, well, people like to play games. So when they play games, they get silly results for playing games. People are starting to buy jewelry, platinum. Oh, they're getting all the jewelry. And they want to get into fashion. The fashion boom was coming in. Was FUBU, Fat Farm, all this different fashion is just coming in waves. And now people are seeing all this fashion just hit lugs. Everyone's in the fashion culture. And hip hop is big business. And they want all the artists marketing and wearing their products. Right? The industry now knows where they used to turn their nose up at hip hop. Hip hop is a culture. Hip hop is in movies. Hip hop is in everything that's moving now. They're making films that's making money. The films might be terrible, but people are running to see them. Hip hop had arrived. So Minister Ben Muhammad and Russell Simmons decided to sit down because what they're noticing though is the artists that were before them, they don't really have anything. And they were like Minister Ben was saying that, like, man, why these artists, they don't seem to have a lot of benefits for them. Like they don't even, a lot of them don't even own their own masters, and they're signed to long-term deals. So a lot of things were put in motion, but rappers were dying also in the streets. The Biggie, the Tupac situation, and how that went down. No one was gonna forget that. But at the same time, there were other people, young kids dying in the streets, gunfire, violence is on the rise. And the music is becoming more and more aggressive and much more vulgar, to where there's almost like, man, this was the clean artist, now the clean artist is dirty. So the summit is supposed to have everybody come out and talk about the issues and kind of do things in the community that rappers were failing to do, something that Tupac Shakur wanted to implement before he, was assassinated. This was one of his major plans. Well, right when the boom of hip hop was taking off, they had the juvenile crime bill where they started building these supermax prisons um, for youth in Northern California. They had all of these different waves of, they were preparing for this new generation in hip hop to lead to violence so they can slap these people in these new jails so they can get cheap labor. So they had Mayor, what's the name? Marion Barry, Melanie Cooper, I believe. And they had the Black Youth Vote. And they had Rap the Vote and all those people there. And they had all the rappers together to try to push the agenda to get them to vote. That was the initiative, to try to wake that sleeping giant that's out there. So Minister Ben and Minister Tony Muhammad was out there, and they got a lot of the community people like Bone. Trey Bone was out there. Trey D from the East Siders was there, and everybody was sitting there. Nobody was wasting nobody. So they wanted to have this summit come together, and it was spearheaded behind Dr. Dre being the main guy there, because at that time Dr. Dre was the main art. He was back. He had Eminem. They were doing their thing. So Dr. Dre was supposed to be the figurehead that was going to be there, and Farrakhan, Minister Ben was going to have the Minister Farrakhan show up, and Suge Knight. They wanted Suge Knight to show up. Russell Simmons was also going to be there to mediate the situation. It's going to be a lot of the governors. The statewide Democratic convention was there. There's a lot of different people who were showing up to this event. It was postponed because Savior's Day was coming up, so they had to postpone it, because when they wanted to have it before, Dre had a scheduling issue, so he couldn't make it. So they wanted to make sure a lot of the key people was there, like the Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She actually was there to help facilitate this whole summit where they can get a room. So in the Four Seasons, this all happened. Everybody came together, as many people as they could, so they could have a discussion. Queen Latifah, there's a lot of people in there. And so they had the convention, right, where Farrakhan talked about a lot of important things and how serious it was for the hip hop artists to understand what's happening in their environment. Steve Harvey came and spoke because he was representing the radio station and was trying to tell them, look, this is what's going to happen. You guys don't understand. Black radio stations is not going to play that with all the cussing and talking about gats. All this talk about gats all the times and pimps and hoes. That's not finna go down no more on these radio stations. They ain't finna play that. And if you keep doing that, all the money gonna run away, all the sponsorships gonna go, and it's gonna fold up and be gone. So Steve Harvey's trying to tell him, you're gonna have to clean it up. Now, Russell Simmons is pointing out that it looks like everybody's getting money, but it's not. The record sales was down 20% in hip hop, which looked like everybody was having a big year. Eminem had his boom, Nelly had his boom, but the overall music business is down 20%, and record companies are closing. Don't forget to hit the like button, good people. Don't forget to hit the like button. Now, a lot of people didn't trust this. A lot of East Coast artists did not show up to this event, which was sad, but they called it a West Coast conference. But Queen Latifah showed up. All the East Coast guys were invited. Nas, Jay Z, Ja Rule, and Irv Gotti, they showed up for the meeting. I don't know if they were there for the actual um, summit. I don't think they made the summit, but they were there for the meeting. Now, people want to know what happened with the meeting. I like to give people the full story so people can understand. And at this time, we were fresh into the war of 9/11. And the role of hip hop and what it plays into everything that moves is not a color. People think hip hop is black. More white people buy hip hop records than black people. Okay? More white people go see hip hop shows more than black people. So that is a very, even though it may look and appear, once they are on the big platform, no way. They like what we like. If we think it's hip, they don't want to be out of the bubble. They're going to be, hey, they think it's hip, we got to get involved. So that's how they play it. Now, there are so many people that don't understand the foundation of what people represent in like life as far as the climates of what is actually transpiring. Because what has happened with the music industry is that they realized what the major problem was. And people keep thinking like this was a distribution deal. And when Jay Prince got involved and they were talking about coming together and they had the private meeting, they had the summit to talk to the world to show that they were unifying and coming together. Now at this time, Suge had a lot of money. He was fresh out of jail and had a lot of money. Now, what they did was have a meeting behind closed doors. And they were trying to find a line of distribution because Def Row had a distributional deal where they had bought out the end that they had to where they had a piece of actual distribution where no record company really had that. They were one of the few hip hop companies that could distribute their own music. Now, now that the deal was being restructured and things was happening the way it was, even those luxuries weren't really going to be provided and they needed to have more distribution, but it was a more bigger problem on the horizon that was more than that. See, hip hop, just like boxing, don't have a union. So everything comes out of you, meaning that you have to pay for it. It has to come out of your pocket. You have to pay for insurance, um, dental. That's why most rappers, you be seeing them, they only pay for the dentist. They don't go to the doctors because it's expensive. Now you got a wife, a kid, and all these different things. They have all these big houses. They don't even have the right insurance on the house, anything, because they spending money the wrong way. So it took a lot of business minds and business lawyers who actually run insurance companies. They saw what the problem was in the music industry, period. And this is how the money was made. They said, oh, well, there's no union. So there's nothing to hold them accountable for anything. See, if there's a union, then they have to watch the books. The books would have to make sense. People will have to explain every dollar that comes into the company. the union's going to want to see it, and they're going to rep the individual artists or group of artists that they have, and it protects the artist. Now, your record deal might be different because they might take 20%, and the company will take the 20% and they'll put it in an annuity account for you. And you might have like health insurance, dental, life, depends on the what they actually have in place. So therefore, when the artist retires, let's say if he had a long hip hop career, he sold some records, went gold, like somebody like Redman, who had a bunch of gold albums, had one that went platinum, and he had like 20-year career in hip hop. Period. His annuity at that point, from about 20 years in the game, he'll have about maybe $4 or $5 million saved up in an annuity. Then he still would have his dental benefits, health. He can invest, and got a nice retirement plan for him, so he don't have to continuously be doing shows and touring at 50 and 60 and 70 years old because he doesn't own anything. And the money would come from the record company, not from you. That would be part of your deal. So that wouldn't have to be paid back to you. So it's more than a distribution deal. This was done with insurance agents. And when you have people who are insurance bound, they know how it works to protect people and get them ready for their retirement. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what you really want, is to have your money ready for your retirement. So you could sit back and let your money, work for you while you're at home or whatever. All the work you've been doing all these years, you've done your work now. Now it's time for you to relax and enjoy life where you don't have to stress about anything. So that's what they were building towards. Um, Now people say, well, why didn't it work? Well, first, you have to get it approved. You just can't start a union. This would have to be approved by a lot of different people, and the people who don't want a union, that's never going to happen. For the entire industry, no. It's not going to happen. They won't allow that. The record companies are not going to do business with anybody who they don't know. They're not really organized yet. And before it could even get organized, the people who had the money to make sure it could get started and get going, and this was going to, so the distribution thing was just the face of it. Like, oh, they can get their own distribution, and then everybody's getting 10% of the artists, and that's how the fund will work. The 10%, of all the artists, you getting at the every artist you getting like 10%. So that would be, very favorable for the group. Now, this is a genius of a plan, but it's dangerous because the powers that be don't want anybody looking at their books, their numbers, nothing. They don't want you looking at that. They don't want to show anybody. And they damn sure don't want anybody coming in there that's not like them. And they're not finna have Farrakhan involved. So you got the minister involved in this with Jay Prince, Suge Knight, Irv got. Are you kidding me? Do you want to talk about the backlash? They started digging up old quotes from Farrakhan, old quotes that came up in an assault case that happened with the nation. They dug up. They dug up fake things with Mr. Hoover and Jay Prince, and tried to link him in. They did all kind of intrusive law breaking tactics and they didn't care because they had the right to, because of the Bush Terrorist Act allowed them to say, well, this is a threat to the country. They could use any tactic they wanted after 9/11. And they know who was going to tell the federal government what they could do. Irv Gotti eventually got grabbed, everything. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people blame Jay-Z. Jay-Z told. Now, the situation was this. Russ went and did the whole sit down and everything that was going, right? Russell Simmons. Russ didn't tell Leora Cohen anything because Russ already know he's out. Russ want a part of this new deal. As Russ is a part of this distribution, he don't care. Everybody's gonna be getting in 10%. So he getting all the money from all the labels. It ain't gonna make a difference. Russ will be over there. He knows he's not really running Def Jam no more. And a lot of people said Diddy did it. Diddy wasn't involved. Diddy was not involved with this thing at all. The only people that was involved, so I don't know where somebody said Diddy blew the whole thing up because he told Clive Davis. I was told that a lot too. So it ain't just Gene. Everybody's like, man, that's Gene Deal thing. It wasn't just Gene. So a lot of people said Puffy was the one that did it, but it's not true. Here's what actually happened. Once this deal was discussed, Dame told Jay, who was scared. Okay, he was scared to get involved and be in the same room with Suge Knight after everything that went down. Now, Jay-Z ended up doing Me and My Girlfriend. They met with Suge. Everything was everything. So he took Tupac's song, put it on his album so he can pay Suge some money. And that's how he did it. He took Tupac lyrics, put Tupac, his title in there, used Me and My Girlfriend. So Death Row was getting a piece of the album or the blueprint too. Now they had just re-upped with Def Jam. Dame Dash, after this meeting, and Ja Rule was there and everything else, and all these guys was meeting up. Sean Puffy Combs said, "Listen, we're gonna have one on the East Coast." So he went out to the East Coast and talked to the brothers. Then he went to the West and talked to the brothers. So there's two meetings took place. There was an East Coast summit, and then there was a West Coast summit. Suge wanted everybody to come together at once, but the minister no. Before we could start blending coasts together, and people still got a lot of tension from what didn't happen between Pac and Big, let's try to unify the coast first. Then we bring everybody together. So the minister's there with JD, Puff, Dame Dash, Ja Rule. I want to say LL. Might not be LL, but LL probably was there. A couple of other guys that was in attendance. Right? Now, the major problem that transpired is that when you want to get something like this done, you need everybody in cooperation to understand what it is that's actually happening. Fat Joe was in the room for the East Coast meeting. So he's hearing what's being discussed and, who would do what the union would be, how it would work with all the rest of the record labels. And if we have this distribution company and we formed it and we could all distribute our music, how it's going to work with the record companies we have now. And they have their own distribution company. And they saying, well, you got your own labels. So you guys are signed to your own labels as an artist. So you basically signed yourself. So you're using a major to distribute your music majorly. You have your own distribution, then boom, there you go. Because you could market yourself. You don't need the record label to do that for you. But back then, everybody feel like, no, I need to get with that major because they're going to give me that look. So who was the guy that gave it all up? The person that gave it all up is Dame Dash. But not intentionally. Dame ended up running his mouth, talking about the meeting, talking with John, and talking to everybody, and he's giving Jay the 411. He's telling Biggs, he's telling Jay, he's telling everybody in the room. And then when everybody, we're gonna have like 10%, and then everybody had 10%. Then then annuity, and then we do this and that. Then we form a meeting. So once he tells that to Jay and everything, Jay's like, well, Then Jay tells Leo Cohen, yeah. So the meeting went down with Farrakhan, and they talking about doing a union and this and that and distribution company and all that. So Leo Cohen talked with Russ and Kevin Liles, and they talked to a lot of people that was supposedly there and what was going on. And Russ was like, I wasn't at that one. He was at the West Coast conference, and he wasn't at the New York one. He was at the West Coast one, and he never sat down for that one and this and that. But he's like, yeah, people just talking. Everybody's talking. There's guys talking, but we trying to save people and come up with charity things. And he was like, no, this is a little something different. Something's working behind the scenes. Leo informed, somehow it got to Jimmy. We're assuming Leo contacted Jimmy Iovine, and the proper people there, Clive Davis and all those other people, and Puffy Combs was not involved in that. Um, Puffy wasn't at the West Coast Conference where the other meeting was held, where they was talking about the distributions and all of these different things. Puffy was at the other meeting where Irv was at, and he was in the room. But did he tell Clive? Who knows? He might have spoke something to Clive about it to run it to see what Clive would think. But that ain't probably what blew it up. I don't know, you know. But from like I said, I heard that Puff did it when it told his side, but I know Jay told Leo, because Dame told Jay. He told Jay, Biggs, and some couple of guys in the room about the meeting, what's going on, and this and that. Because he was all excited about it. So, it is what it is. So hit the like button, good people. Subscribe to the page. That's what happened. It's sad that it didn't happen and didn't go down the way it should have. But a lot of people had great input. It's a shame. Like some of it is probably still on YouTube in broken pieces and stuff, but a lot of good things were said there. A lot of good people came together. These are the things that we don't do now. They had John Conyers from the congressman from Michigan. He came, and when he went to the L.A. summit, and he was talking about the Bill of Rights for recording artists. A lot of people don't even understand that, and how the hip hop community is a force in the political game, and they just don't, channel that energy. But they're afraid of you channeling that energy. So they was pushing the rap for vote and all these other different things that they were doing politically. So when you have lobbyists there, you have congresswomen there, you have a mayor there, you're having political meeting. In other words, that's going to scare. Believe me, that is going to scare the other side of the people that run the music business, because this happened under their nose. So they's like, whoa, we thought this is just a summit and this and that, and now it's a secret meeting and these things are happening, and people are trying to put things like that in motion. That's gonna cut my money? Yeah, so because if a rapper's not staying broke, then how are we gonna be getting rich? If he's gonna be financially taken care of in his family, he might not want to make an album. So they want to make money off you to the process of your elimination. That's how the record business was set up. That whoever is the record owner, he's in charge. He owns the record. He has no talent of recording, but he gets the majority and lion's share of the money because he's putting up the money. And that supersedes the material, the actual song, the artist itself, who creates the music. Just because they got the money, they're in charge. It's crazy, ain't it? Artist is one of the last people to get paid when the money comes in. So now you have that understanding. I'd like to say thank you to all you who are new here, who just subscribed. Um, this is what we do, man. We give you guys the truth. We have the playlist, the truth behind hip hop beats. That's what kind of got me started. So if you're new here and didn't know, that's what really jumped me and catapulted me. People want to know what was going on back in those days. And we hit you guys with what we know, and people know for sure that I'm different. Forget who you've been seeing. I'm different. So we got 4 other videos to choose from. Thanks for everybody who hit up the Cash App and like, share, and subscribe. As it says on the banner, just follow everything on the banner. And I'm out.